Do you want to avoid wasting your money on things that just aren't necessary to keep your Betta alive, happy, and healthy? If so, then today's video is for you because I'm going to give you a rundown of what I think are the most unnecessary things to buy, one of them being actually dangerous. So not only do you want to avoid it because it's a waste of money, it's also a huge danger to your Betta fish. And if you're curious what that is, let's hop into that as our first product, Betta beads. I actually made a whole video explaining these, so if you want to check it out here, you can, but in short summary for you, Betta beads are these gel-like beads. They look a lot like Orbeez if you've ever played with those little things that you put in water and then they inflate and you can play with them and they're easily squishable. For a while they trended back when I was younger and people were putting them in toilets and bathtubs and just destroying their plumbing. Don't do that, by the way. But yeah, so they look a lot like Orbeez and they're marketed as adding beneficial something or other to the water, encouraging your Betta to forage, but know that you don't need these for any of that. And actually what was happening is as people were adding these to their water, they would actually shrink. I'm not sure how that works, but they did. They shrank and they turned into perfect little bite-sized pieces that these Bettas would then digest, and they just could not process it. So not to be too graphic, but some of them I think did actually pop out of the Betta and kill them, or just kill them because they could not digest it. So yes, very, very dangerous and also a waste of money. So big no to Betta bead. Number 2 is Betta water. You may or may not see this in your local pet store, but it's actually quite popular. I'm not really sure why. In reality, all it is a small bottle of conditioned tap water. As far as I know, that's it. It's nothing fancy. And for a little bottle for, I think they were charging you $5 or $6, you're gonna need a lot of those to fill up your tank, when in reality, for most people, all you have to do is buy an $18 bottle of dechlorinator like Sea Chem Prime that's going to last you 2 to 3 years. It's lasted me about that long. And then you just get water from your tap. In some instances, and we won't get it too in depth on this because I know you want to hear about the rest of the products, but some people find that their tap water is unsafe. I'm not exactly sure how or where in the world this happens, but I have had a friend or two tell me that they have heightened levels of chlorine and just some other things that they found maybe made their Betta sick. They found a workaround. They would actually buy large bottles of water from a gas station or some convenience store, and for a few dollars, maybe $5, they could get a big thing that would fill their Betta's tank a couple of times. So there are workarounds, but keep in mind that for most people, you can just get water from your tap and add a dechlorinator. You don't need to add 10-ish bottles of Betta water for a lot of money. I have sat and wondered before who came up with this idea. And the only way that this could seem maybe reasonable is if you get a bowl or a very small container for your fish, and then 1 to 2 bottles of these would fill it up. Because there's no way whoever was creating this looked at a 5 or 10 gallon tank, which 5 is the minimum for Bettas, and thought, hey, let's sell these not even gallon bottles, maybe like a quart. It's probably about 1 to 2 quarts, and sell these for $5, $6, $7, $8 a bottle. Something tells me people have bought it before. Just know that it's not necessary. Moving on to product number 3, we have the disposable cartridges that you put in your hang-on back filter. Now, I used to use disposable cartridges because I had a hang-on back filter before I got my sponge filter, which I always recommend to people, by the way. Sponge filters are my personal favorite, but if you have a hang-on back filter, a lot of companies will sell them with the disposable cartridges that you change usually once a month, and then it's a reoccurring cost, and it may not be that much, but it really isn't necessary. My whole thought when I swapped from the cartridges to the sponge filter was that beneficial bacteria, that colony that you need to start and keep the cycle going in your tank so that you have a healthy ecosystem, beneficial bacteria mainly form in 3 places: your decor, like your plants and your wood, your substrate, and your filter media. I know that beneficial bacteria doesn't only form in the filter media, but I really hated the idea of swapping out my filter media every month and essentially throwing away all the beneficial bacteria that decided to form in that cartridge. I was just throwing it out and then replacing it with a new one. So what can you do instead? Actually, you could buy some really cheap filter media off of Amazon, cut it to size, just shove it in your hang-on-back filter if you want to keep your hang-on-back filter and you don't want to swap to a sponge filter. You can just cut it to size, stick it in there, and then all you really have to do is rinse it out every now and then if it gets gunky. Now remember, don't rinse it out in your sink because there's likely chlorine in the water. It can kill the bacteria. What you want to do is wait until you're in the middle of a water change. When you have that dirty kind of poopy fish water in a bucket, before you throw it out, because that is dechlorinated water from your recycled tank, take the filter media out and kind of squeeze it out in that bucket. There may be some waste from the substrate in the bucket since it's just fish poo water that you're going to dump out, but you'll still be able to clean it out efficiently in that bucket, and then you know you won't be harming the beneficial bacteria living in there. And that's all I'm going to say on that product because we're moving on to number 4, which is Betta Buddies. I don't know who came up with this idea, and at first it seems really, really cute. I mean, who wouldn't want a little plastic Betta floating in their Betta tank with their Betta? I mean, I wouldn't, but I know some people think it's cute because I've seen a lot of people online, I've seen pictures on Google where people put it in their Betta tank. Now, first of all, Bettas don't like to be in close proximity with other Betta fish. In nature, they can duke it out, fight, establish their own territory, and separate. In tanks, they're gonna end up fighting, which is why you never put a male Betta fish in with another male in any fish tank you have. Now, I know Betta buddies can't really fight back, but if it looks enough like a Betta, then it will likely stress yours out, which can make him more susceptible to sickness. It's also a little bit concerning to me because of the materials it's made out of. It looks like it could be painted or it could be made of some kind of plasticky chemical. I'm not entirely sure if it would or wouldn't leach out harmful chemicals, but it does raise a red flag just because of the way it is painted. There have been some instances where people's Bettas just completely ignored the Betta Buddy. But I don't believe it is necessary at all. You can completely skip it. Instead, get your Betta an extra plant or two. It will spruce the tank up and make it even more natural, which will make your Betta even happier. Number 5, flare-inducing toys or wands or mirrors. Now, helping your Betta flare is not a bad thing. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I really never have to do that. It's kind of funny because my Betta Edwin hates the snails in his tank. He is constantly flaring at them. This is a daily occurrence, and I'm not kidding. Sometimes it's multiple times a day. If a snail wanders out from under the wood or under the plants and my Betta sees it, if Edwin sees it, it's on. It's absolutely on. My snails get harassed day in and day out. So clearly Edwin doesn't need help flaring. But if you want to exercise your Betta, you really don't need to buy any of the flaring tools. First of all, you can make your own out of supplies you have at home, which I have a video on how to do that. Or you can just use really anything brightly colored laying around your home. For instance, this is my absolute favorite tinted lip balm. It's like this burgundy, purpley. All I have to do is hold this up to the tank and Edwin will flare at it. You could go to the kitchen and grab a banana and make him flare at it. All I'm saying is you don't have to buy these flare sticks. You don't have to buy these Betta mirrors. You likely already also have a mirror at home. So if you really want to make your Betta flare at his own reflection, just grab a mirror from your bathroom. It's really not necessary. Number 6, this isn't really something you should avoid necessarily. It's more where you should buy it. So a lot of people go to pet stores, like big box pet stores usually, because not everywhere has a locally owned pet store. I know I don't. I really only have Petco's and PetSmarts, and I do have a Pet Supplies Plus. But a lot of these stores are going to mark up the products, even if they carry a product you need. Like, for example, Sea Chem Prime, which is a dechlorinator that I always use. They may have it, but it's likely going to be more expensive than getting it somewhere like Amazon. So when you are shopping for a product that you know you need, I recommend buying it online, or at least looking it up online so that you can compare prices. If you don't want to wait and driving to your pet store is easier, then by all means do it if you don't want to wait a couple days for your dechlorinator to come in or your fish food or whatever you need. That's just something to think about because a lot of times things are more expensive in the stores. And last but not least, and this one is slightly conditional, bottled bacteria starters. I actually use this myself. However, it's really not necessary if you already have an established tank. So if you're setting up your first tank and you want to get the cycle started, using this beneficial bacteria in a bottle can help. And it's also helped a lot of other fish keepers. But once you have an established tank, for instance, the tank behind me I got before this tank beside me. So that's Walter's tank and this is Edwin's tank. So for Walter's tank, I didn't have anything I could take from an already used tank that had the beneficial bacteria on it and place it in there. So I had to use the bottled. I also put some things like snails and stuff in there, but that is a whole topic for another video. So in this one, for example, because I already have a Betta tank set up, well, I could take some plants from that and put it in the new one. I could take some substrate from that one and put it in the new one. I could take some rocks or some wood from that one and put it in there. Anywhere that beneficial bacteria would live. You could even swap out your filter media. So let's say you have a hang-on back filter like we talked about earlier, and you have that square that you cut out of filter media that you stuck in there. Well, you could just transplant that into the new one if you wanted a hang-on back filter in your new one as well, and then just cut and put some new filter media in there. It's not going to mess up the cycle because you already have a bunch of stuff in that tank that is full of beneficial bacteria. Another thing you could do is if you're prepping in advance for a tank, maybe you don't even have it set up yet, what you could do is buy a sponge filter. If sponge filters are more your thing, you could buy another one and set it up in your old tank right next to the old sponge filter and let it sit in there for a couple weeks, maybe even a month if you really wanted to make sure it was established. And then all you have to do is just plop it over and that will help your tank cycle. So really, if you have an established tank already, you don't need to buy bottled bacteria. So there you have it, the 7 products that you really don't need to waste your money on. I hope that this video helped you. If you have any other tips or tricks that weren't shared in this video, please put them in the comments so that others can continue to read and learn. Before you go, I have a couple links in the description you might want to check out if you have not done so yet. First and foremost is my free Facebook group, the Betta Fish Forum. It is a wonderful, wonderful place. At the time of this recording, we're getting close to 5,000 members, which is pretty exciting. We have many posts a day in there. Lots of people are interacting and talking. It's just a wonderful, wonderful place to learn if you want to get into a group of like-minded fish keepers. I also have a new guide, which is basically a little quiz that you can do yourself to help you find out which Betta tail type you should get if you're in the stages of setting up your tank currently and you haven't gotten a Betta yet, and maybe the whole tail type thing just seemed a little overwhelming. This is designed to help you choose which one is the best for you and just kind of narrow down that process for you. And with that said, friend, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing. This channel is absolutely chock full of helpful information. I would hate for you to miss out on any of it. God bless you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon.